Your mindset is the operating system through which you interpret everything that happens to you. It determines whether failure reads as a verdict or a lesson, whether a stranger reads as a threat or an opportunity, whether you see yourself as fixed or unfolding. It shapes your relationships, your career, your health, and the overall texture of your life. The most important fact about it, it can be shaped deliberately with the right tools. What the mindset is and where it comes from. Your mindset is the collection of beliefs and interpretive habits through which you experience the world. Your brain can't process every signal it receives equally, so it filters everything through rules built up over a lifetime. What you notice, what you believe is possible, how you explain success and failure. No one is born with a mindset. It's constructed through early childhood experience. The emotional climate of your upbringing lays the deepest grooves. Since the brain is most neuroplastic when young, cultural conditioning, invisible messages about what ambition and success mean, emotional memory, charged events become reference points the mind reaches for again, and conscious choice, the leverage point. You can't rewrite your childhood, but every book you read and habit you build casts a vote toward a new orientation, starting today. Fixed versus growth and beyond. Carol Dweck's research identified two core orientations. The fixed mindset assumes abilities are static. You either have talent or you don't, so people avoid challenges, give up quickly, and feel threatened by feedback, because every setback becomes a referendum on worth. The growth mindset assumes abilities develop through effort and strategy, so people embrace challenges, welcome feedback, and feel inspired rather than threatened by others' success. This produces measurably better outcomes across academics, careers, and relationships. Other dimensions matter just as much. Abundance versus scarcity. Is there enough to go around? Agency versus victimhood. Do you have real influence over your life? Threat versus challenge. Does stress make you contract or mobilize? And short-term versus long-term orientation. These interact. Someone can hold a growth mindset at work while operating from scarcity at home. So shaping your mindset means attending to each domain, not just absorbing one global insight. And growth-oriented thinking isn't the same as forced positivity. A healthy mindset can still call a hard day hard. What matters is what you believe is possible from here. Why change is biologically possible. Science once assumed the adult brain was fixed. We now know that's false. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life, means today's thought patterns aren't permanent. Neurons that fire together wire together, and repeated new patterns create increasingly efficient pathways over time. Much of your background mental chatter lives in the brain's default mode network, active when you're not focused on a task. In rigid or negative mindsets, this network runs self-critical loops almost continuously, so even small shifts in its tone compound significantly over time. One more piece. A chronically stressed nervous system works against growth, narrowing perception and reinforcing threat-focused interpretation. This is why regulation, breathing, movement, sleep, safe connection is a precondition for mindset work, not a luxury. Identifying your current mindset. You can't navigate from where you are if you don't know where you are. Common limiting patterns. Imposter syndrome. Achievements feel unearned. Perfectionism. Nothing is ever good enough. Scarcity. A chronic sense there isn't enough. Learned helplessness. A belief, often built from real past failures, that your actions don't change outcomes. Catastrophizing. Small setbacks trigger disaster-level thinking. And comparison. Worth depends on how you measure up against others. To surface these, journal for recurring themes, notice disproportionate emotional reactions, assign a core belief was triggered. Track your self-talk after mistakes, and ask people who know you well for honest feedback. Foundations before technique. Willingness, a decided commitment to do the work even without motivation, since motivation is a feeling that comes and goes, while willingness is a decision that precedes it. Self-compassion, Research consistently shows people who treat themselves with warmth after failure are more resilient and motivated than those who self-criticize. The inner critic usually gets in the way of the change it demands. Patience, existing patterns took years to form, so new ones need sustained repetition. People often quit just as real change is starting beneath the surface. Community. The people you spend time with shape your sense of what's possible, so seeking relationships and mentors who embody the mindset you want is high leverage. Asterisk practical strategies. Cognitive reframing. Notice your automatic interpretation. Check whether it's actually evidence-based or just assumption, and choose a reading that's both honest and more useful. Questioning core beliefs. Ask of any limiting belief, is it true? Can I know it's true? How do I react when I believe it? Who would I be without it? Rewriting internal language. I haven't succeeded yet instead of I failed treats a current state as part of a process rather than a verdict. Visualization. The brain doesn't fully distinguish vivid imagination from real experience, so mentally rehearsing a response pre-installs that pattern. Gratitude practice recalibrates the brain's negativity bias without denying real problems. Mindfulness builds the observer self, the capacity to notice a thought rather than be consumed by it, which is the prerequisite for any deliberate change. Embodied practice, posture, breath, sleep, exercise shifts brain chemistry directly and is often the fastest route to flexible thinking. Deliberate exposure breaks the loop where limiting beliefs cause avoidance that prevents the very experience that could disprove them. Confidence usually follows action rather than preceding it. Learning relationships matter because mirror neurons make modeled behavior a literal transmission mechanism. And redefining failure as data rather than a verdict. The most specific feedback available about the gap between your approach and your goal requires both reframing and genuinely processing the shame attached to past failures. Mindset across life domains. In career, a growth mindset treats challenges as development and feedback as a resource. A powerful shift is moving from, how do I beat everyone in this field, to what unique value can I create? In relationships, anxious or avoidant patterns rooted in early attachment aren't fixed. People can build earned security through positive experience and honest reflection. Anchored in the belief that vulnerability is a strength and love is a skill, not a fixed trait. In health, a sense of personal agency over your choices is itself health-promoting, and relating to the body with curiosity rather than shame produces more sustainable change than punitive diet culture. In finances, outcomes are driven more by psychology than financial knowledge. Key shifts are from scarcity to real openness, from a fixed "I'm bad with money" identity to a learning orientation, and from impulse to values-aligned long-term decisions. Navigating setbacks. Resistance to change is normal. The brain defends old patterns, sometimes loudly when challenged, and that's a sign of real change, not failure. Relapse is also normal, especially under stress or exhaustion. What matters is how quickly you return with simple acknowledgement, there it is again, rather than shame. Protecting your energy also matters. Curate the media you consume, design spaces that cue the states you want. Notice which relationships drain your sense of possibility, and treat supportive practices as non-negotiable. Resilience, bending without breaking. Resilience isn't toughness or numbness. It's the capacity to feel the full weight of difficulty while still believing you'll find a way through. Holding this hurts, and I will move forward at once. Nassim Taleb's concept of antifragility is useful. Some systems grow stronger from survivable stress followed by real recovery, like a muscle from resistance training, and a life built entirely around avoiding discomfort produces a more fragile mindset over time. Research on post-traumatic growth shows many people who endure serious adversity report genuine growth from it, not because suffering is secretly good, but because meaning-making significantly shapes the outcome. Practical builders. Name emotions precisely rather than lumping them under bad. Build a pause between trigger and response. Recall your own track record of surviving past difficulty, and invest in real relationships before a crisis hits. Social support is consistently the strongest predictor of resilient outcomes. Identity, the deepest layer. There's a difference between changing what you believe and changing who you understand yourself to be. Beliefs not anchored in identity are fragile and easily abandoned under pressure. Someone who identifies as someone who shows up for their health sustains the behavior even when motivation dips, because it's become an expression of who they are. Identity forms through accumulated evidence. Each followed through commitment casts a vote, so the practical move is to act in small, sustainable ways as the person you want to become, rather than waiting to feel like that person first. Identity tends to catch up with behavior. One caution: hold identity loosely, since even positive self-concepts can calcify into cages that prevent asking for help or risking visible failure. A useful exercise is writing a concrete description of who you're becoming, then asking at decision points, what would that version of me do here? Building a sustainable daily practice. Willpower is unreliable. It fluctuates with sleep and stress, and collapses exactly when it's needed most. Architecture is more reliable, designing your day so supportive practices require minimal willpower. A simple structure: a short morning anchor, breathing, journaling, or visualization before the day's demands take over. Daily movement, ideally outdoors. A brief midday reset before reactivity accumulates. A short evening reflection that's observation rather than self-grating, and a weekly review to notice longer trends. The specific schedule matters less than consistency. 5 minutes sustained for years outperforms an elaborate routine abandoned after 3 weeks, and different seasons of life call for different capacities, so the skill is honest recalibration, not rigid adherence. Closing. The mindset is not fixed, and you are not finished. The version of yourself who holds more expansive beliefs and meets difficulty with more grace isn't a fantasy to be earned. It's a direction you can move in now, one small choice at a time, in the middle of an ordinary, imperfect life, rather than after it's been tidied up. What's required isn't more information but a renewable decision, available again in each moment, to engage consciously with the quality of your own thinking. The invitation isn't to become someone else. It's to become more fully who you already are. Key principles: the mindset is not fixed. Awareness precedes change. Self-compassion fuels growth more reliably than self-criticism. Body and mind are one system. Consistency beats intensity. Environment shapes mind. Failure is data, not a verdict. Anchor the work in genuine meaning. Growth is a way of being, not a problem to permanently solve. Identity drives behavior more reliably than willpower. Architecture beats motivation. And begin now with what you have from where you are. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl.